Welcome to Projecting On View podcast, brought to you by Tolumide. Hope you're all having a good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. And I also hope you're starting to enjoy the weather. It's really getting cold out there now. You know, we're starting to get cold feet. We're starting to turn on the heater. We're starting to wear extra layers. We're starting to wear jackets. I've actually seen a lot of people wear jackets now these days. I hope you're really settling into it one night time. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the challenge of moving abroad. And in this case, it will be the challenge of moving to the UK. So this is going to be more of a personal conversation of myself, with myself, and by myself. Some of us might be able to resonate with this topic because, you know, we've had to move from our original country of birth to another country, and in this case to the UK, or we've got people in our lives, be it our parents or our relatives, that have had to move from their original country of birth to the UK. And in one way or the other, they've told us stories of how they migrated, emigrated, if you want to call it, left, relocated, whatever word you want to use, from their country of birth to the UK. Today we'll be talking about the challenge of moving from Nigeria to the UK, to London, to Britain, to England, whatever word you want to use, you want to call it. Many people migrate to different countries for various reasons, be it for educational purposes, for job opportunities, and for career change, for safety, and in other cases, people migrate to other countries due to war, due to famine, and due to natural disasters. Today we'll be talking about the challenges encountered in moving to a new country. And the first on my list, I use the word encounter because you had to spend some time with it. When you have an encounter, you know, for example, Paul had an encounter with Jesus Christ on his way to Damascus in the Bible. So it's like you spent time, you had a one-to-one conversation with these challenges that comes your way. The number one thing that you're going to have a challenge with is the weather. If you're coming from an African country, for example, if you're coming from Nigeria that has two seasons, mainly the rainy season and the dry season, to a country that has about 4 seasons within a year. That's too much now, 4 seasons. So we have the autumn, the spring, the summer, and the winter. You would actually find it difficult. You're used to a normal weather, which is, you know, hot and dry. It's just as simple as that. And then now you're coming to a weather that today it gets hot, tomorrow it gets cold, the next day it gets chilly. You're not even too sure, especially the London weather. That's the first challenge. And you know, the thing is, we don't even get told when we're coming from Nigeria, like, you need to get a jacket, because we don't have a need for it. They just tell us, even some of our aunties or uncles, they tell us, you know, just get a cardigan, that's it, you'll be alright. That's what they'll tell you, get a cardigan. But until you get to the UK, and then once you get off at the airport and you start to feel the vibe of the cold weather, that's when you know, like, no, this weather is not coming to play. Or even if you decide to come during the summer, it gets extremely hot. The weather gets extremely hot that you could actually go off naked. If you're not too careful, you will go naked. That's why for me, I prefer winter to summer, because with winter you can regulate the temperature. If it gets too cold, you can wear jackets, you'll be alright. You just have to make sure you keep your body warm. But when it gets too hot, there's nothing you can do to change the situation, to change the weather. So that being said, we're going to go into the next challenge, which is the accent. And I've written down accents /slangs / pronunciation. These are also things that are major challenges, because you're coming from a country, for example Nigeria, everyone sounds the same, everyone speaks the same, everyone looks the same, to a country where there's a diverse culture, there's a different race, ethnic groups, different backgrounds. It becomes a challenge because now you would have to listen properly to how people speak, how people pronounce the words, how people, you know, talk, and that is a challenge. An example of that was when my mom brought me to the UK, and at that time she worked with an agency, so everything was pretty new to me, and I was just, you know, enjoying the cool environment. And unfortunately I came during winter. It was really cold. I had cardigans on, and my mom waited for me at the airport with layers and jackets, just making sure our son wasn't cold. So now I came at a time where the academic section had already started, and I had to wait the following year before I was able to start college, because I finished my secondary school in Nigeria. So just not to waste time, because they say an idle hand becomes the devil's workshop, I decided to find a job. I decided to look for jobs and just get myself going, get something done with my life. And I was applying for jobs. And bear in mind, my mom had 2 phones, so it's like, this is mostly in African homes, like you would relate to this. You always have two phones. So there is a contract phone. That's the one you're using calling your friends, your people at work and whatnot. And there's another phone that you use in calling back home. You use in calling Nigeria. So my mom had given me the one she uses in calling calling our relatives and family members back home, just so she can be able to reach me whenever she's at work or whenever she's out. On this fateful day, I received a phone call. It was about 6 p.m. in the evening, and my mom was out. And then the only thing I could remember from that phone conversation was that, am I able to come to work that evening? That was the only thing I was able to remember from that conversation. Are you able to come to work this evening? And I said yes. And bear in mind, I've been applying for jobs, so in my mind I thought that it was the jobs that I was applying for that eventually decided to call me to come start work. And now that I look back, I'm like, why would anyone even call you past working hours for you to start job that same day? It doesn't make sense. So when my mom got back and I said to her, yeah, I got a new job, this and that, they want me to start today. And then she was questioning me. She was asking questions. What sort of job is this? The job role, what does it entail? What do you have to do? This? And I was like, I don't know. They just said, am I able to start? So we just dismissed it because there was nothing for me. I wasn't able to give her very valid information about the job that had called me, about the phone call I received. So a couple of days later, my mom got queried at work as she had booked in work and she didn't turn up. Sorry, mom, for putting you in this position. I mean, I didn't understand. If I understood what was being said, I wouldn't have. I'll probably just say, do you know what, I'll pass on the information to my mom when she gets back. But I literally just picked you on, and that's because I didn't understand the accent. So, and the second thing is the slangs. There's a lot of slangs that, a lot of people say, and if you're not careful, they will throw you off and you wouldn't even understand what is being said. Like, say for example, when someone says to you, say nothing. First of all, I wasn't saying anything before you said say nothing. I was not saying a word. But in the real sense of it, it doesn't mean don't say anything. It's like, it's calm. And, when someone says to you, you're right, mate. If a 50-year-old man or a 50-year-old woman says to you, you're right, mate. First of all, let's take a step backward. You're not my mate. From where I come from, we value respect with high integrity. So we respect our elders. You can't call me your mate because you're older than me. So if you're saying, am I alright? Is that meant to be a compliment? Is that meant to be a greeting? Because are you alright seems to be you're asking a question, but really and truly that means how are you? So these are things that becomes a challenge, and if you're not careful, you get stuck in the mud. And the third thing is the houses, the transport, the roads, everything looks exactly the same. If you were born and raised in England, you probably wouldn't understand what I'm talking about. But if you've had to move from Nigeria or your country of birth to the UK, you will get what I'm saying perfectly. Every houses on the streets of London looks the same. Every road on the streets of London looks exactly the same. The transport, everything all looks the same. How do you even get around if you're new? I've got too many stories of when I've been lost so many times on the tube. If I'm talking about the tube, that's like taking a step forward. But like even normal getting around, I've been lost so many times. So how do you even get around this when everything looks the same? Bear in mind, in Nigeria we'll drive on the right, and in the UK we'll drive on the left. So even trying to like get around that itself is a big deal. It will take you some time to be able to get your head around it because it's going to be confusing. And then now having to deal with different roads that all look the same to you, different houses that look the same, it's a lot of challenge. When people start telling their stories of how they had to like find their way around, sometimes you get a funny story, and I'm sure it gets confusing to everyone coming to the UK for the first time. And the first thing is the neighbors. Okay, so we're going to talk about the neighbors. The only time you ever know your neighbor is when the postman accidentally drops the letter in your letterbox and you probably want to return it to them, or maybe they want to return it to you. It's not like they don't see you every day, it's not like they don't see you out and about, but it's just that everyone keeps to themselves. And that's why I call MYB, so it's mind your business. Everyone minds their business in the UK. Other times it's like you see them on the street and it's just the usual, you're right, mate, and that's the end of it. And everyone keeps it moving. You don't know, you could live in a house for years and not know who your neighbor is. And I'm not saying not seeing them, I'm saying knowing who they are as a person. So that itself is a big challenge, because a lot of times we need to understand that most people get bored. Most people want to like even talk to people around them, but if you don't even know who your neighbor is, how are you going to like communicate with this person? Because you don't know who they are. And another thing that is a challenge is the currency. That is a big challenge, because if you look at the currency conversion from Naira to, and I'm talking from like coming from Nigeria, if you look at the currency from Nigeria to pound sterling, the difference is clear. Is that when I'm talking to some of my friends and we're talking in millions, like, oh, you know, someone paid this a million, like, oh, he's so rich. But to someone in Nigeria is like, nah, that's not a lot of money. And then when you're talking, like if you're talking pound to someone in Nigeria, and you're saying £40, now that's cheap money. But £40 is actually a lot of money. If you think about it, even a pound is a lot of money. So the currency is a big challenge, because at first, I'm sure everyone has gone through this. Everyone that have had to come from their original country of birth to the UK, I've gone through this in one way or the other. So you go to the market, you want to buy something, maybe you want to buy shoes, clothes, or whatever. You'll do that calculation in your head before you even bring out that money. If they say that shoe is for like £30 or that jacket is for £30, this is what it is. If you've come from your country of birth to the UK, do you know the first thing you're going to do? You're going to shop for jackets. The first thing a lot of people go to shop for is jackets and clothes. A lot of people go for clothes shopping and shoes, and especially jackets. They go for jacket shopping. So when they start to deduct that conversion in their head, it's like, so £40 is like what? I don't know what the current exchange rate is right now. And the thing is, they don't need a calculator to do this. You do that in your head. The brain is just too sharp to know like what's going on. How can I put £40 on a jacket? Am I going mad? Is something wrong with me? How can I put £40 on a jacket? Or how can I put £50 on a shoe? Is it not a shoe? Not just for us to wear shoes, but the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, when you get used to it, even £40 on a normal day, you now think, oh, you know, this is not going to be enough to even buy this or to even buy that. And the next one is time. Okay, that might sound a bit shocking, because time is of importance. Time is money, they say. So coming from a country where we have a lot of time, and I'm not saying that we don't do anything with that time, don't get me wrong, people go to work, people do their business, go about their business and whatnot, but it's just that we have our time, we do things in our own time, compared to the UK where everything is based on time. If you're meant to start work at 9 o'clock, you better start work at 9 o'clock. If you're meant to finish at 6, you're finishing at 6. In London, for example, it's a big of a deal. If you're starting work at 9, your 9 should be your 9. So imagine having to deal with that during weekdays and now having to deal with going to events early on the weekend. No, it wouldn't work. That's why you can't blame people that come late to parties, especially African parties. When they come in at 6, if the event starts at 3, they're coming at 6. You can't blame them. It's because Monday to Friday they've managed to be on time to work. So how can you then expect them to still be on time to where they're going to have fun? The least they will tell you is that they're not going to start very soon. They will start late. Everyone always have that. I don't even understand, why do we actually have that at the back of our mind? Like, you know, we always have that. They're not going to start. It's not going to start at 6. Let's just wait 2 more hours. Yeah, they will start like 9 o'clock. And the funniest thing about that is everyone thinks exactly the same way. I used to perform with a musical band some years ago. We had a wedding performance somewhere in North London at the time, and I respect my band leader because he's very keen on time keeping. When he says you have to be there at 12, you should be there at 12. On this occasion, we were there just setting up the instrument to make sure that we were ready before the event starts. And we saw this white couple, nicely dressed, you know, looking fantabulous, just sitting in the corner by themselves and just you know, having a conversation. And we're like, are these people actually here for the wedding now? So we went ahead and spoke to them and asked them, so are you actually here for the wedding now? And they were like, yeah. And we asked them, oh, where did you come from? And they said they came from Croydon. And then look up from Croydon to North London, that's a distance. So for them to still even make effort to want to come to a wedding and still be on time, that means they took it very seriously. We didn't explain to them that when they say 6 or when they say the event is starting at 3 on the invite, it doesn't mean it's going to start at 3. Someone should have explained that to you. It just means that at 3 o'clock, you're remembering that you have an event at 10. That's not even to say you're going to get ready at that time. It just means that 3 o'clock reminds you that you have an event at 10. So, and they were like, oh, we didn't know that. I was like, yeah, that's how it works with us. We felt that pain because they're putting so much to want to be at the event on time, and even our decorating the event that were there, and we did musical band that were also there, not even anyone from the grooms or the bride's family was there. So at the end of the day, we just felt like, you know what, maybe next time it just goes to show that, you know, we're not always on time, and that's why we call it African time, because it means our own time. Let us know what you think. What has been a challenge to you when you moved to the UK? It could be about 20 years ago, because sometimes I feel like now some of the challenges that people went through about 20-25 years ago might not necessarily be the challenge that people that moved into the country 10, 15, 5, 6, 7 years ago would experience. Do you like and follow us on all our socials, Projecting Overview Podcast, on Instagram, on SoundCloud, Facebook, on YouTube as well. And until next time, have a good one.